I'm going to blather on about myself for a minute. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to ask if everyone can please see if you can find a pencil and paper, because I'm going to ask you to take some notes. So a word about me, as Morteza said, I'm a professor of biological sciences at Lehigh University. I've been there for a quarter of a century, which is remarkable even to me. I have been active in diversity and inclusion efforts while I was running my research lab for almost that entire time. And so that's been, I've started a couple of diversity and inclusion committees and worked with them for a while I've been there. While I was working on diversity and inclusion efforts, I was able to learn that we did a climate survey. And in that climate survey, we were able to find quite a few things. But mostly what we found was that people were not comfortable in their workplace. It wasn't that they were being targeted. It wasn't that necessarily they were being really harassed in a way that rises to the legal definition. It was more that they weren't being recognized. It was more that people weren't seeing them for who they are. People were just not talking to them and being incivil. This was largely what was going on. And it was interesting because when I talked to people, they would say, oh, I'm being treated badly because of my gender. Oh, I'm being treated badly because of my race. But in fact, what I started to question was this actually racism and misogyny, or was it actually the power structures that we had in place and the way in which people were able to go about bad behavior without being held accountable? So when I closed down my lab a year or two ago, I decided to pursue this full time. And as we've heard so far from Leah's beautiful talk, workplace bullying really is an expensive proposition for institutions. This is just an estimate because it's very difficult to tell what the cost is. And I think Leah laid this out very well. If you have harassment lawsuits, it can be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Jury awards are in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then there's the annual cost of harassment that's hidden, as Leah mentioned. When people are not comfortable in their workplace, they're really not working up to their full potential. They're really not. And so we don't really know what the cost is, but we know it's very high, and it's easy to find those costs if there are some legal lawsuits, which do occur. And even if the person is not successful in their lawsuit, it's still time and energy that the institution has to spend taking care of the issue. Directly, as Leah has mentioned, workplace bullying really hurts everyone. You can see this large number of issues that occur: insomnia, anxiety, depression, digestive disorders, musculoskeletal problems, cardiovascular illness. But one thing that Leah did not mention is that the people who witness a pattern of bullying may be subject to the same health problems as those who are directly targeted. So watching somebody being repeatedly targeted and feeling helpless about being able to help those people can cause the same symptoms of insomnia, anxiety, depression, digestive disorders. The morale is low, there's reluctance to speak up, and there's a lack of motivation. But to the university itself, bullying can also mean that you lose employees. And those of us that have been on search committees, which are many of us, search committees take time, energy, and money. And then when you bring in a faculty member, especially in a STEM field, you're going to pay to have them get their startup funds, relocate, and then to have them leave, you start that process over again, which is a very expensive process. People don't show up for work, that's absenteeism, there's compensation claims, there's decrease in services that keeps coming up. And then the university's reputation itself can be damaged by the people that have left the institution. And that can cause you to not be able to attract the qualified employees that you would like. So what I'd like us to do now is take a look at a case study, because one of the things I would like us to do is define bullying. And it's hard to do. I mean, what I've heard people say is, I know it when I see it. It's like pornography. I know it when I see it. It's hard to define it. What I'd like us to do is spend some time actually seeing if we can define that. So take out your paper and your pencil and take a look at this. I'll give you a minute to read it, and then jot down some notes about what you think about this. Do you find this to be bullying or not? How do you interpret this situation? And what are the points that you'd like to make about them? So if you'd like to indicate whether you think this is bullying or not, There are no right or wrong answers. This is an open-ended quiz. You don't have to do what everybody else is doing. That's the way to think about it. So what I'm seeing is that most of you do think that's bullying, and I do too. So I agree with you. So what I'd like to do now is put us back in chat rooms. We're going to rearrange the chat room so we can talk about this case. Thank you all very much. This was a very rich conversation, which I enjoyed very much, and I hope the other participants did as well. Thank you.